6-year-old Wyatt Kelce stood trembling behind the heavy velvet curtain of Lincoln Elementary's auditorium. Her pink ballet costume shimmered under the fluorescent backstage lights, every sequin carefully sewn, every strand of hair tucked neatly into the bun. Her mother, Kylie, had spent half an hour perfecting that morning, but none of that mattered to Wyatt. Her small hands fidgeted nervously, clutching the edge of her tutu as she peeked through the curtain. Rows and rows of faces stared back. Parents, teachers, flashing cameras, and somewhere in the third row, the most famous person in the world, Taylor Swift, her Uncle Travis's girlfriend. Wyatt's breath caught in her throat. Everyone would be watching. Not just her classmates, not just her mom and dad, but Taylor Swift. Her lips quivered as she whispered to herself, "I can't do this." The curtain felt like a wall between her and disaster. The more she thought about stepping out there, the more her stomach twisted into knots. Her teacher, Miss Rebecca, noticed the panic in her eyes, but before she could say anything, a gentle, familiar voice spoke from behind. "Hey, Wyatt Bug?" Wyatt turned. Taylor Swift was kneeling beside her, wearing a simple sundress and a soft cardigan, her golden hair loose around her shoulders. She smiled, not the kind of smile from red carpets or music videos, but the warm, safe kind that made Wyatt feel like maybe, just maybe, everything would be okay. "Are you nervous?" Taylor asked softly. Wyatt nodded, eyes wide and glistening. "There's so many people?" Taylor chuckled gently. "Yeah, there are. And you know what? They're not here to scare you. They're here to cheer for you." Wyatt looked uncertain. Her voice was barely a whisper. "But what if I mess up?" Taylor's smile deepened. "Then you just keep going, Bug. Everyone in that audience wants to see you shine. Even if you fall, even if you forget a step, they'll still clap. Because you were brave enough to try." Wyatt blinked up at her. "Will you be there?" "I'll be right there in the front row," Taylor promised, brushing a stray hair from Wyatt's cheek. "If you look at me, I'll be smiling, just for you." And for the first time that evening, Wyatt's tiny shoulders relaxed. Taylor didn't stand up right away. She stayed there on the dusty backstage floor, her designer dress gathering wrinkles, her eyes soft with memory. "Can I tell you a secret?" she whispered. Wyatt nodded, sniffling, her tiny fingers still clutching the edge of her tutu. "The first time I ever sang in front of a crowd," Taylor said, "I was about your age, maybe a little older, and I was so scared. I actually threw up before I went on stage." Wyatt's eyes widened. "You did?" Taylor laughed quietly. "I did. My hands were shaking so bad my mom had to help me hold my guitar. And when I finally got out there," she paused, her expression turning playful. "I forgot the words to my own song halfway through," Wyatt gasped. "Really? Really? I wanted to run off that stage and never come back," Taylor said. "But then I looked out and saw all the people smiling, clapping, even though I'd messed up. That's when I realized something. They weren't waiting for me to be perfect. They just wanted me to be brave." She reached out and took Wyatt's small hands in hers. "And that's all you need to be tonight, Bug. Not perfect, just brave." Wyatt's lower lip trembled, but she nodded slowly. "What if I fall?" "Then you get back up," Taylor said simply. "Because that's what real performers do." The stage manager's voice echoed down the hall. 5 minutes, girls." Taylor squeezed Wyatt's hands one last time and stood. "You've got this. I'll be right there, cheering louder than anyone else." Wyatt watched as Taylor walked away toward the audience, her heart thudding faster. Not from fear this time, but from something new, something stronger. Courage. The lights dimmed. The chatter in the auditorium faded to silence. From the wings, Wyatt could hear the principal's cheerful voice welcoming everyone to the Lincoln Elementary Spring Showcase. Her teacher, Miss Rebecca, gathered the girls one last time. "Smile big, point your toes, and have fun," she reminded them, her tone gentle but firm. "You've all worked so hard for this." Wyatt took her position at the edge of the stage, her little heart pounding. She peeked through the curtain and spotted them, her parents sitting together, Jason holding Kylie's hand, both beaming with pride. Travis was there too, leaning slightly forward, and next to him, Taylor. True to her word, Taylor caught Wyatt's nervous gaze and smiled. Slow and reassuring, mouthing silently, "You've got this." The curtain opened. The first notes of "Shake It Off" filled the room, and 6 tiny ballerinas in pink tutus stepped into the light. Wyatt took her first few steps, her movements careful and stiff at first, but she was doing it. She was really doing it. Kylie squeezed Jason's hand. "She's beautiful," she whispered. Jason nodded, eyes shining. "Our girl's a star." Then it happened. In the middle of a spin, Wyatt's foot caught the edge of her costume. She stumbled, tried to steady herself, but the world tilted. A soft gasp rose from the audience as the little girl fell hard onto the polished stage floor. The music kept going. The other dancers hesitated, unsure whether to stop or continue. Wyatt didn't move. Her small hands came up to her face, and her shoulders began to shake. The lights felt too bright, the room too loud, and all she wanted was to disappear. From the audience, Kylie half rose from her seat, her maternal instinct screaming to run to her daughter. Jason caught her hand gently. "Wait," he murmured, though his voice cracked. Wyatt's sobs grew louder. She looked out into the blur of faces, searching for her mom, her dad, someone, anyone, to save her. And then she saw Taylor. Taylor was already standing. Before anyone else could move, before the teacher could rush forward, Taylor Swift was walking down the aisle, her expression calm but determined. She didn't think about the phone's recording or the whispers spreading through the crowd. She just thought about the little girl who needed her. The moment Taylor stepped into the aisle, the entire auditorium seemed to hold its breath. Every eye followed her. The superstar, in a sundress and heels, moving with quiet purpose toward the stage where a 6-year-old girl sat crying under the blinding lights. Someone in the crowd whispered, Is she?" But Taylor didn't hear. She was already halfway down the aisle, her heels clicking softly against the floor. Her focus locked on Wyatt. As she reached the steps, a stagehand appeared as if guided by instinct and handed her a wireless microphone. Taylor took it without hesitation and climbed onto the stage. And then she began to sing. 'Cause the player's gonna play, 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 play. Her voice, warm and unmistakably hers, filled the room. Clear, strong, unshaken. The pre-recorded track still played through the speakers, but now it was layered with her voice, live and real, and suddenly this little school recital felt like magic. The audience gasped, then erupted. Parents stood. Children screamed. Phones lifted to capture what no one could quite believe was happening. But Taylor didn't sing for them. Her eyes never left Wyatt. She walked across the stage slowly, gracefully, singing each lyric as if it were meant for this moment, for this little girl who'd fallen and couldn't find her courage. When she reached Wyatt, she extended her hand, still singing through a soft, genuine smile. "Shake it off, shake it off." Wyatt looked up through tears, blinking in disbelief. Her trembling fingers reached out, and Taylor's hand closed around hers. Gently, she helped the little girl to her feet. The applause grew louder, but Taylor didn't stop singing. She gave Wyatt's hand a squeeze and began to move. A small plie, a gentle twirl, mimicking the simple ballet steps the children had practiced. It was absurd, beautiful, perfect. Taylor Swift, in a summer dress and heels, dancing a 6-year-old's choreography in front of hundreds. Wyatt hesitated at first. Her movements small, uncertain, but Taylor's energy was contagious. Each step they took together felt lighter, freer. The tears on Wyatt's cheeks began to dry, and then, like sunlight breaking through clouds, she smiled. The other girls began to dance again, too, the entire stage alive with pink tutus and laughter, Taylor moving among them with effortless grace, her voice steady and radiant. By the time the chorus came around, Wyatt was dancing with joy, spinning, giggling, twirling under Taylor's hand as if nothing had ever gone wrong. When the final notes of "Shake It Off" faded into the air, the auditorium exploded into cheers. Parents stood, clapping wildly. Teachers wiped away tears. and dozens of phones recorded a moment no one would ever forget. Wyatt and Taylor turned toward the audience, still hand in hand. Taylor bent down to the little girl's level, her voice soft but steady, and whispered something only Wyatt could hear. "You were so brave." "Bug, I'm so proud of you," Wyatt nodded, her eyes glistening, not with shame or fear anymore, but with the bright, trembling joy of someone who'd just conquered her biggest fear. Together, they bowed. The applause grew louder, a standing ovation that shook the walls. Taylor smiled and lifted the microphone once more. "Let's hear it for Wyatt Kelce and the amazing dancers of Miss Rebecca's ballet class." The room roared, but as Taylor handed the mic back to the stunned stagehand, she stepped aside, ensuring that all the attention, every clap, every camera, stayed on the girls. Backstage, Wyatt ran straight into Taylor's arms, hugging her tightly. "Thank you, Taylor Tease," she sobbed happily. "Thank you." Taylor held her close. "You fell, sweetheart," she said softly, "but then you got back up. And that's what matters most. Everyone falls. The brave ones just get up again." A moment later, Kylie and Jason burst backstage, followed by Travis. Kylie scooped Wyatt into her arms, whispering through tears, "I'm so proud of you, baby girl. You were amazing." "I fell, Mommy," Wyatt said quietly. "I know," Kylie whispered back, smiling through her tears. "And then you got up. That's my brave girl." Jason turned to Taylor, his eyes wet with gratitude. He couldn't find the words, so he just mouthed, "Thank you." Taylor smiled and shook her head as if to say, "No thanks needed." Later that night, a photo captured that beautiful chaos. Taylor kneeling with Wyatt on her lap, surrounded by 6 little dancers in pink tutus. It went viral the next morning, millions of hearts touched by the kindness of one simple act. But for Wyatt, it wasn't about the fame. It wasn't about Taylor Swift, the celebrity. It was about the woman who came to her rescue when she was scared and taught her what real courage looked like. On the car ride home, still in her ballet costume, Wyatt clutched her flowers and whispered, "Mommy, I want to keep doing ballet." Kylie smiled. "Even though you fell?" Wyatt grinned sleepily. "Especially because I fell." Taylor said, "Falling's okay. Getting back up is what matters." Years later, when life would knock her down again, as it always does, Wyatt Kelce would remember that night, the bright lights, the fall, and the hand that reached out to lift her back up. Because that's what heroes do. Long after the applause faded and the auditorium lights dimmed, a quiet peace settled over the Kelce household. Wyatt had fallen asleep in her pink tutu, clutching the bouquet of tiny daisies Travis had given her, her face serene and glowing in the soft lamplight. Downstairs, Taylor sat on the couch beside Travis, her head resting on his shoulder. Neither of them spoke for a while. They didn't need to. The house still felt full of that magic from the recital, the kind that lingers long after the music stops. "She's incredible," Taylor finally whispered. Travis smiled, watching her with quiet pride. "So are you," Taylor shook her head. "I didn't do anything special." "Yeah, you did," he said softly. "You showed her that being brave doesn't mean not falling. It means standing up again when you do." Taylor's eyes shimmered. "You think she'll remember it?" "I know she will." Outside, the world had already begun to talk, videos spreading across the internet, headlines calling it the most heartwarming moment of the year. But upstairs, in a quiet bedroom lit by a single nightlight shaped like a ballerina, none of that mattered. What mattered was the little girl who had learned that courage isn't about perfection, it's about heart. And as Taylor looked toward the stairs, she smiled to herself. Because somewhere deep inside, she knew. The moment she stepped onto that stage, she hadn't just helped a child find her courage. She had reminded the world, and maybe even herself, what it really means to be brave.